So I'm very, very happy to be joined by Noor Ali Chagani. And for those of you who are not familiar with his work, this is a great opportunity for you to listen to him talk about it. And also, please do look on Art Divvy's Instagram. I've posted a post with different images of his work, and it's really worth checking out and looking up. Now, Noor Ali Chagani trained as a miniature artist from the National College of Art, and he developed a sculptural practice of creating artworks out of his miniature painting using little miniature bricks. But what's really fascinating is that Noor Ali Chagani first received a BS degree in in computer science and engineering in Karachi before moving to Lahore and taking up art at NCA. So I'm really excited to listen to his journey about how he got there. He lives and works now in Lahore, and he has exhibited in various, international notable institutions, including the Katonah Museum of Art in New York, Institut du Monde Arabe in France, Casa Arabe in Spain, Victoria and Albert Museum, the Pera Museum in Istanbul, and the Devi Art Foundation in India, amongst various others. And Noor Ali Chagani has also completed a very prestigious residency recently at the Victoria and Albert Museum, and he was previously nominated for the very coveted Jameel Art Prize at the V&A in 2011. He has taken part in several art fairs and biennales across the world, including Venice, the India Art Fair, the Moscow International Biennale for Young Artists, Art Basel Hong Kong, and Art Dubai. He has also completed residencies in the Rijksacademie in the Netherlands, Rivak Art Space Residency in Bahrain, obviously the Jameel Residency at the Victoria and Albert Museum in 2017. And I'm really, really proud to have him because I've also been lucky enough to work with Noor Ali a couple of times. And you'll now have an opportunity to see why I'm so excited about his work. So Noor Ali, shall we dive right into it? I wanted to know about the bricks. Now, you have become well known for your signature works, which use tiny, tiny miniature bricks to create beautiful sculptures, either in the forms of walls, sometimes they're undulating. And obviously, there's more to your practice than just bricks, but I know that they form an important aspect of it. So I wanted to know from you, why bricks?
Actually, it's about when I migrated from Karachi to Lahore for my studies in NCA. When I arrived here, everything was like the Lahore is all about red bricks, and everywhere that you can see is like all red bricks all around me, and all these structures are made out of red bricks. And because I'm grown up and I was born in Karachi, and Karachi is quite a grey city. It's like a concrete jungle, and where people live in an apartment, and so it was like to me when I came here in Lahore, I realized that it's a very different living style, and I was from the beginning I was very interested in architecture and everything, but for a person who lives in Karachi, and when he comes to Lahore, it's a big difference actually.
You're right. There's a big difference between Karachi and Lahore, and it's quite an adjustment moving from one to the other.
Yeah, and above that actually, it's about the idea of home as well, because here what I personally think was that everyone lives in their personal home. I mean, they have their own roof, rather than in Karachi, because people living in Karachi is like in apartments, especially. It was, to me, it was like living like a chicken, like in cages, and so everyone living just on top of each other. So that was the actually part that really impressed me here in Lahore, as well as the greenery and everything. So that was the continuous thing that it was in my mind. And when in my thesis, because throughout our career, throughout our NCA period, we were doing practice. Actually, we were practicing or imitating actually and replicating Mughal miniatures and Indian miniatures and so and so. But in the finals and in the thesis that they gave us the liberty to do whatever you want to do. So I remember in my fourth year, Imran Qureshi, and they told me that you are free to do whatever you want to do. So I started drawing architectural drawings, and somehow they were they were very bad actually. So because
Sure, they were not bad.
Actually they were dark. Because I'm bad in actually I'm not very good with colors. So that's the issue. And all of my colors in my practice, whatever I have in my practice, normally I use collages to bring color in my practice. Otherwise, all the color that I have is from my wife's side actually. Kurat helps me in making colors and everything. So for me, especially, it's very difficult to develop color because in miniature, it's a difficult practice. It's difficult to make different kind of colors and things because it's a long process of making colors. So bricks was like a escape to me. I mean, they have tones. They have color. They have different kind of red tones in it. So that was the thing that I enjoyed about bricks. And
but also,
so, yeah.
you're not just using ordinary large scale bricks. You actually build your own bricks that are very tiny. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Sorry, I missed.
Oh, sorry, don't worry. I said that
Sorry, actually.
you actually build your own bricks and you create out of, I think, terracotta clay, and you then create
Yeah.
sculptures from that. So can you tell us a little bit about that process, that they're not large
Yeah.
scale regular bricks, they're bricks that you create?
Yeah. Yes, actually, what happened was that, of course, the scale of of bricks is like it's somehow, it was my take on, or it was something like when in my final years where I was actually telling you that my drawings were not, the drawings were not very good, and so they told me to do something else. So what happened was that I come up with first my one of my wall. It's made out of a handmade bricks, and it was uh, it was something like it never happened before in miniature department. Actually, I did something which was it was just out of the blue or something they were, but the jury was happy about that I tried a different thing. So what I did was I made a small miniature wall with a script telling that this plot is not belongs to you. ये plot बराए फरोख्त नहीं और and belongs to Mr. Riaz Loan. So that was my first piece, and I displayed it in a very in a detailed way. I mean, I made a pedestal for that. I made a wall out of it, and in that jury actually they see the potential in that medium. And after that, actually, Imran Qureshi actually told me that now you are on the right track. So let's make bricks first. So I remember that I made like 10,000 bricks with hands. I mean, like
Wow.
we made 10,000 bricks because he told me that just forget everything, just produce the material first, and then start sculpting and making different sculptures out of it. So that was the journey, and so I wanted to make the bricks in a very similar way that we used to have here. I mean, the traditional way. So what I did was I made a clay bed and I chopped them out, and also I use I remember that I use a stamp like if you see in here in Pakistan we have bricks with the signature marks over it. So I use that, and in my bricks I use like Q, N, and Q, like because like my initials and my wife's initials, because the initial idea was
You're such a
about brick
romantic,
is
Noor
home
Ali.
and
You're such a
yeah.
romantic.
It was poetic. Yeah, it is poetic. At that time, yeah, I really because at that time it was I mean, it was a spontaneous thing, but now I realize that it was quite a poetic thing that happened to me. So yeah, this was the process, and so whenever now I also use like other help to produce miniature bricks, because in my works is when there are special kind of bricks where I used to have like uh, special holes in them. Like so, for that we used to have a very precise hole in each of the bricks. So for that we use molding and casting, and I also use like factory workers sometimes who used who works with porcelain and everything, and tile makers. So I utilize them as well. So yeah,
Are
this is
they,
the
do they get surprised by the scale of the bricks? Do they ever say, "What are you doing?"
yeah, yeah. Initially, actually, they were like, "What you are going to do with them? Because you already have bricks. Yeah, use them. Why you are transforming them into a miniature size?" Or so it's a curiosity in them as well, of course. Yeah,
That's very interesting. And
yeah,
tell
it
me, so the
is.
bricks for you represent a version of home. Is that correct? You want to chat a little bit more about that? How exactly do they represent home for you? I know you spoke about the journey
Actually,
from
I
garage to
personally think
Lahore.
that it's for the relationship between home is a very strong connection, I guess, because it's a very strong connection between them. I mean, like to me, brick represents home and family, but at the same time, they also represent uh, power and possession and strength. And I mean, like I remember that in my thesis, I did some penetration in NCA building as well, and the work called "Be a Part of It," and in that work, what I did was because NCA is an old building, so there was many loose bricks in NCA building. So what I did was I because at that time I was creating my own bricks. So what I did was I made my bricks out of miniature bricks and replaced the loose bricks all around the NCA building. So it was the concept was to be penetrated into a structure which is more stronger than me, and I wanted to be remembered there, and I wanted to be a part of that I mean that powerful structure. And the philosophy behind that was it is something to when I did that the idea was to share the power of and at the same time maintaining my own identity.
And are
So
they
yeah,
still
so
there?
bricks is yeah, still there, and now they are. I recently, whenever I go into NCA, I take pictures of them. So when there is one very prominent uh, place. It's just outside the printmaking studio, and one is just outside the miniature department. And even I did some penetration on third and fourth floor. Like it was quite high, and I did that. So yeah, so now they are just part of that building. So yeah, it's amazing.
You really put your stamp in there. And I wanted to ask you about sort of the structures that came out of it, because you weren't content with just having a regular wall. You've also created very interesting sculptures that undulate, they fold, they represent cloth. They are also, some of them have graffiti on them. Others, I mean, especially for what you ended up doing for the Lahore Biennale one, people could even walk on that. How did you start maneuvering the material and replicating other forms through it? That's very difficult. I'm assuming your engineering background helped quite a lot in that.
Yes, actually, engineering background helped me in that. Actually, the idea was there was a continuous idea in my mind was to transform the walls. I mean, I wanted to transform them into something else, and I wanted to because I always see wall as the normal idea about walls is like they are very solid, strong, and it was like they are not allowed to move. And I wanted to challenge that idea, and that is why from the beginning, the idea was to change that, and I wanted to transform them into a cloth-like structure. So uh, in my thesis, actually, what I did was I produced a very unique kind of brick with holes in them because the idea came from Tana Bana, the idea of weaving clothes. So I thought on that idea, and because of that engineering background, I come up with an idea. Why not utilizing and doing something that the bricks can be weaved together rather than being mortared with cement or something like that, and making it solid. So I remember that in my thesis, when I placed a brick carpet, it was just looking like it was floating in the air because there was a very thin, like 3-inch height pedestal underneath, which was completely covered with a brick carpet. And I remember that Sajjad had he came and he was like, he sit down and he was touching it and he just tried to pull it up to see that what is the material is. And when he pulled it up and it take the shape, I mean, because just like a cloth. So he was like very amazed with that idea and the idea of transforming a wall into something else.
Oh, so even when you pull it up, it's still very fluid and flexible.
Yes, it is. It is because
Oh, wow.
the whole idea was to transforming a wall into something very different, very fragile. But on the philosophical side, actually, on the philosophical side, I wanted to why I wanted to transform it into a cloth-like thing is the idea, the weight of the brick that we always carry in our mind. I mean, especially when we talk about the males of this society, particularly in South Asia, where when they're born, they are born with the responsibility that they have to build their home, they have to provide shelter, they have to take care of their family and everything. So this particular idea is so deep rooted in our society that it passed on from generation to generation, and that burden actually that especially males they carry with them every time. And on the other side, I because here in our society we take that males are as very solid supernatural people, that they are not allowed to I mean, they are not allowed to be soft. I mean, they are not allowed to be emotional and in public. And I mean, that idea was to try to show that other side of persons as well, the softer side of a wall, the softer side of a strong personality. So this was the whole idea behind that.
That's very, very interesting. And tell me, Noor Ali, I know you've had some very exciting residencies across the world, and I wanted to know how international museums perhaps responded. So what was your sort of residency at the Rijksmuseum like, for example? I believe you went there in 2012, is that correct?
Yeah, actually, when I went to Rijks Academy for the residency,
Yes.
In rights actually the good thing about residency, first I wanted to to take a minute to express the residencies actually, because whenever I visited residencies, I try to produce a larger than life scale size work, because it's difficult here in this environment, like in galleries. It's really difficult for a young artist to produce a larger work, because it's expensive as well, and because of the space issues and everything. But in residencies, one can do such kind of things. So when I went to Netherlands and Rights, the idea I was working on was to, what I did actually was I made a 30 feet wall. I mean, we made like two big walls, and Kurat was with me, and we were working on both of the huge structures. So and at the end we broke all those walls, both of the walls, and displayed the residue of that, because the idea was to bring that particular kind of culture. I wanted to present our culture here, and that's why. And I remember that they were very excited about those walls. And what I did was, I broke both of the walls on weekend actually, and they were not there, and no one, the administration was not there on weekend. And when they came on another working day, they were like, "Oh, you just broke both of the walls, and we have to celebrate that, and we wanted to document that." And,
oh, sweet.
And so, but the thing was that I was in a hurry actually somehow, because at that time I was doing my IT job as well, and I wanted to finish my project on time, and things were so. I didn't realize that if I let them see all this process of breaking and things, it would be very interesting. But somehow they were like, we should document that and everything. But it was a very interesting residency, and Netherlands was. Fortunately, I visited different places around the world because of art practice. But I personally think that Netherlands was one of the most favorite places I visited ever, because it's a magical place.
And it's a magical museum, because I know shortly after that it was closed for many years. So you're very lucky to have done that residency at that time. And Noor Ali, tell me, you mentioned this very briefly, but I think it would be interesting to highlight how for many years, and I think until very recently, from what I understand, you were actually working as well with an engineering background, in an engineering sort of degree. You were working in a software company, right?
Yeah. Yes. Actually, I initially wanted to be from the very beginning. I wanted to come to NCA, but what happened was that somehow I was quite lazy, or somehow, and for my admission, I was lacking some documents, and the domicile, I was missing my domicile, and for the admission, and they told me that we cannot accept your application. So what happened was that my friends were going for IT, and because at that time in late 90s, IT was there was a boom of IT, and so we decided to. I thought that let's go for IT. I don't want to waste my year actually. So I started my IT career, and IT education. But after completing my engineering, though I was good in software engineering as well. I did good. My friends were good, and they were quite helpful, and so I managed a good GPA and everything. But
you have many
when
talents.
I came out, and no, it's not like that. But somehow, artists, they do. Fortunately, I mean, naturally, I mean, they have different talent. What I personally believe. But what happened was, but when I came into the market, and fortunately I got an internship in a very good institute. But when I was working with LUMS students and FAST and Karachi University students, I realized that they were quite good with. I mean, in comparison to me, they were far more better than me. And at that time, I realized that I might this job, this career, maybe not the right career for me. And that thought was continuously in my mind. And what happened was, in that process, what happened, I come across an NCA advertisement again. So it was a big advertisement in the newspaper, and one of my friends came bring that newspaper to me. That okay, so NCA is again calling you. So if you want to join it. So because I was looking for escape, and I started my journey. I worked for my interview and everything. And fortunately, this time I get admission, and I came here. But what happened was, when I came here in NCA, after my first year, I was like, I was a little worried about the education, my IT education. That it was something that I thought that I might lose all of it. So I started doing my software job. And so it was a very tedious, tedious schedule, because it's a full-time job. So in night, I was doing a software house job. It was just near Salima's Hashmi's home, actually.
Okay.
So throughout night time, we work with American clients. And straight from my software house, I usually went to my college. And then I just have like 4 or 5 hours to get my sleep. And then I have to go back to my software house again. So it was a very strong routine, but it helped me a lot. And the important part was that at that time I didn't realize that how it helped me in future. But now when after my graduation, actually, I realized that being an artist as well as a software engineer, there is a constant income that I was generating from my software side, and it helped me a lot. I mean, I never thought of that if I am doing some art work, that I need to think of that commercial side of it, or if I wanted to make something which is sellable, and that is why I realized that in my early years, there were magical things happened to me. I mean, I did amazing things, and eventually, after some time, you realize that what was the reason behind that. And now I realize that okay, that was the particular reason. And
that's true. It gave you
I was
so much
working
freedom.
since 2017.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it is. It helped you a lot, because here in Pakistan, the infrastructure of galleries, and it's very difficult to survive as an independent artist, like a studio artist, because you see, like in my class, like in NCA, there were 12 students who graduated with me, but I'm very depressed with this idea that none of them are working. I mean, because it's difficult. It's difficult to survive as a studio artist.
I think that's very true. But I wanted to ask you, Noor Ali, tell me about the Jameel Prize nomination, because this also came very early on in your career. How did that feel at that point when you're working your software job, you've graduated from NCA, you're slowly building a body of work, and you suddenly probably get a phone call or an email? What was that journey like?
Actually, I mean, about the Jameel Prize. Actually, it happened. Hamad Nasser was the great support actually, because Hamad Nasser nominated me, and from the very beginning, actually, from my thesis, actually, and Imran Qureshi, he's a good friend of Imran Qureshi from the very beginning. So he when he saw the bricks and in thesis, and he was like he was a very good support, and because just after my thesis, he gave me a break actually in Beyond the Page, and it was in Pacific Asia Museum, Pacific Asia Museum, California.
Yes.
And since then, he was a very great support to me, and he presented me in his gallery as well, and he showcased my work multiple times.
Wonderful.
There, and after that, he actually nominated me in Green Prize. So fortunately, I was selected as I was shortlisted. So Jameel Prize was the real turning point in my life actually, because it happened to me in very early in my career, and I was very glad that it happens to me, and I went there, I worked with them, and I produced Lifeline. Lifeline was the work that was produced, and there's a story about Lifeline as well. If you have time, I can tell you this story.
Yes, of course we
well.
have time. But tell it quickly, because I want to ask many other questions.
Yeah,
but please tell us the story.
Actually, this Lifeline actually happened. It was an accident, and I always into. I really enjoy things that where nature help you in your work. So what happened was that Devi Art Foundation, Lekha Budar and Anapun Budar, they were interested in my brick sculpture. So they told me to produce a brick sculpture and give, and they wanted to propose a proposal for that. So what I did was, I remember that we were in NCA hostel after graduation actually. What I did was, we made a huge brick carpet, and I asked my friend to go underneath and sleep underneath the brick carpet. So he was underneath, and me and Ali Baba was taking pictures. And after 10 minutes actually, and we were busy in taking pictures, the person lying under the carpet was shouting that I'm out of breath.
Oh
and
my
because
God.
it's quite a heavy.
It's heavy.
It was quite a heavy, because almost like 4,000 bricks were. He was lying under 4,000 bricks. So
who is this poor friend who you tricked like this?
He was a son of actually our Zahra Ali Clark gallery. Actually, he was from. Okay, so the thing was, he was yelling that just take me out because I'm out of breath. And what we did was, we just we didn't care of that brick carpet. We just tried to we just pushed the brick carpet and try to bring him out. But eventually, what happened was that process of throwing the brick carpet take a very different shape. It was a very, very interesting shape. I mean, like we were like very amazed with that. So what happened was, we sent two proposals at that time. We sent one proposal to Lekha Budar, the one with the live person living under the brick rug, and the other proposal with a undulating sculpture to Hamad Nasser for Beyond the Page, and
Wonderful.
he was very happy about that as well. So yeah, that was the story of Lifeline, and that piece was then we gave the title Lifeline because of that person we gave that lifeline to him as well.
Because you had to rescue him
so
from it.
this was the story, and in Vienna they selected that piece and they presented, and they toured that lifeline in throughout the Europe, and so it was a turning point to me.
How wonderful! And tell me about this. I wanted to ask you also about the transition to sort of lifelike pieces, like how the Lahore Biennale piece was, which was also undulating. And it was in your home country, and people actually walked on that. What was that process like? How did you think of creating an actual sort of sculpture that the audience could interact with to that extent? Were you nervous about it? Because had you worked with life-size bricks before, or was this the first time? This was in
I mean,
2018.
yes, yeah, in Lahore Biennale, when in Biennale actually, what we did was I wanted to create a brick carpet, a big one with a. I wanted to work with big life-size bricks, and what we did was we made a brick carpet again with a weaved brick carpet, and when people walk on that, I mean, उसमें इस तरह से था कि when they were walking over it, the bricks were like वो हिल रही थी. I mean, जब आप उस पे चलते हैं, they start like vibrate करती हैं. So that was an amazing part when someone walks over it. So that was again interesting because it was a new face of a wall. So I wanted people to walk over it, to sit with that on it, and I mean like to have fun with that, because I think like कि हमारे यहाँ पे जो एक issue है वो ये है कि there is a very small viewership. I mean,
yes.
In galleries, even it's with the big artwork as well, because अगर बहुत बड़े artists भी हैं, so when they have their work in the gallery, some collector buys it and that's it. I mean, it's a very I always wanted to do something in a public ताकि लोग उसको regularly देखें, उनके साथ they interact with that. Even now, I also think that I have to reduce prices of my work, and I mean like in this lockdown, I work with a small बहुत ही miniature scale के barriers बनाए, and I try to work on the additions so that people can. I mean, like they should be affordable.
It's accessible to more people, of course. I understand.
Yeah, because
and Noor Ali, remind me. I remember that you had told me that you were gifting the work to Lawrence Gardens, and you were going to leave it there. Is it still there for people to interact with, or did you actually end up moving it away?
Yes, actually, it was designed like that because उसको इसी तरह से बनाया था ताकि when there is a space in between the bricks, so that the grass can grow in between them. So now it's almost like a part of a I mean like it is because अब उसके अंदर से grass उगना शुरू हुई है और उसके अंदर सारा कुछ. So now it's almost like a part of that place. It's one cannot. Actually, I remember that a couple of months ago, Kutsia messaged me about कि तुमने वो अपना carpet हटाया था कि नहीं हटाया था. So I was like, it's not possible. Yeah, it's not possible to, and because I wanted to
it's your gift
make
to your
it as
city.
a part of the.
Exactly, it's your gift to your adopted city, so it's important to leave it there. Yeah. And tell me, Noor Ali, do you have a favorite work? Is there a piece that you really felt was extremely important? Besides the ones you've already spoken about, of course.
I mean, of course, Lifeline was the most important. It's because it was the turning point. But apart from that, I guess hanging carpet was also one of the very important piece, because and now it's I'm fortunate that that now it is in a Pera Museum. It's in miniature 2.0.
Yes, the most recent show that you've been a part of.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that I'm really happy that मैं उसका हिस्सा हूँ, because I always amazed that somehow my bricks always make a place. And and Hamad again Hamad wrote an article about my work in the catalog, and about the I always think that the hanging carpet is again an exceptional piece that I have produced, because the idea behind that was again the story was the same, that the weight that men carry here, and about the continuous weight and continuous thought of building a home or something like that. But at the same time, what I did was, the idea was of collecting bricks, like in hanging carpet. What I did was I was working, and I was thinking of the idea of collecting bricks like gypsies do. They collect loose bricks from all around the city, and they build a structure, or sometimes they sell those bricks, but sometimes they make their structures. So it was something like I made something out of a material जिसको लोगों ने फेंक दिया है, या जिसको लोगों ने यानी कि waste material है, and I try to utilize that. So that piece is also a very darling piece to me. Yes, yeah, if I can say that.
Of course you should say that. It's all your work. You're allowed to have favorites always. I was thinking we could maybe open it up to questions, because people have been leaving some really lovely comments about your work, about you. And so I was wondering whether the audience had any particular questions that we can then reply to with Noor Ali. Nothing seems to be coming up. Everyone's finding the additions idea that you mentioned very interesting. They're very happy that you've left the work in Lawrence Gardens, which I really think is a wonderful thing to do. And perhaps while we wait for everybody to ask questions,
I don't know if Lawrence Garden and the authority is happy about that.
As happy, I'm sure they are. It doesn't matter, even if they're not that happy. But the public was probably very happy, because I remember the few times that I visited, children and adults were both walking on it, and they seemed so exceptionally happy to be able to sort of clamber up on top of this like undulating brickwork. It was very, very nice to see that.
I remember that Akfam Mia, actually, one of our teacher, and he gave me a call. She gave me a call that I'm here and revisiting your carpet with all of the kids and everyone, and they are enjoying it, because like kids were like in love with that, like going up and down, and so it's really good that I think it's very important here, especially in Pakistan, that के लोगों तक काम पहुँचे. I mean, the viewership needs to be broad. I mean, like, as I was telling you when we were in conversation before, you can see that like poetry, like poets, like in fairs, poetry is in every house, and everyone enjoys that. But मगर हमारे जो काम हैं, but artists के जो काम हैं, they are somehow so expensive. I mean, they can't afford that. So हर घर में कैसे जाएंगे? And so we have to think of new ideas.
Exactly. You're right, and that's why public art is so important, to let people interact with it.
Yes.
Noor Ali, we had a good question about what's next for you. I was wondering where you could talk about that a little bit. What is next in the cards, either for the journey of your work, or even for exhibitions or art fairs that you may be a part of in the future?
Now, actually, for me, and I'm working on because छोटे-छोटे काम हो ही रहे हैं. I'm producing that. But now I really wanted to do something bigger. I mean, nowadays I'm working on the idea of Zarina Hashmi's tasbih, actually.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm really, whenever I see that image, I really, मुझे बहुत ही अच्छा लगता है. Actually, जरीना हाशमी का मुझे वैसे सारा ही काम बहुत पसंद है. I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
her work because उनका भी एक काम है जो घर की एक बात है और the distance and everything, the lack of home. So I'm working on the idea of making concrete tasbees and things like that with big bricks. And again, I'm also very much interested in the idea of in Islamism the numbers, like ये 33 दानों की तस्बीह है, like इस तस्बीह को 100,000 दफा पढ़ना है, इसको 11 दफा पढ़ना है, और the maths and the numbers. I'm really interested in that idea, so I'm working on making huge tasbees out of used bricks. And I mean, again, the tasbees from gypsies bricks, and I wanted to make huge sculptures out of those bricks. And so, but
Well, you
again,
have
yeah,
to
let's
share
see
progress with us. I hope you keep putting pictures as well of the work, of the progress and the journey you're taking.
Yeah, sure, yeah, of course, because बड़े काम का यही है कि it's I always wanted to do big works, but of course हमारे galleries को भी उतना supportive होना पड़ेगा, because normally residencies provide that support. But whatever I will have to do, I will try my best to produce. And there are some more works that which are also in pipeline. From the very beginning, we were thinking of making hollow brick pillars, hanging pillars, rotating pillars with miniature bricks. And just about today, actually, me and Hamad were talking, that Hamad told me that I still remember the idea of making those hanging pillars. So again, yeah, these are some ideas.
Exactly, and it all comes out of ideas, and then they grow and they morph. And when the timing is right or the resources are correct, then you go for them. Unfortunately, we only have a minute left, so I really wanted to thank you for taking out the time to chat to me about your work and your journey. And I can't tell you how much I've appreciated it and enjoyed it. And I know that our wonderful audience has as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining yet again. This is the 21st Art Divvy conversation we're having, and I'm so proud and happy that Noor Ali was a part of it. And the main star, actually. Thanks, Noor Ali.
Thank you very much for having me. I mean, I'm really glad that you give this opportunity to me, actually. Thank you so much.
This was important to me as well. Thank you so much, Noor Ali, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.